Hello, I'm Paul Laney, the retired sheriff from Cass County, North Dakota, and the current vice president of national sales for Turnkey Corrections.
And I'm Lauren Matthews, and I'm the current social media and content specialist for Turnkey.
And you are listening to JailTalk, and as you can kind of tell by looking around, things look a little different. We are not in the studio. We are in Reno, Nevada for the Western States Sheriff's Association's annual conference. So excited to be back here. We were here last year. Actually, last year, this was our last week on the road. We got back from this, and COVID hit, and kind of changed all our lives. I'm preaching to the choir out there, so it's exciting to be back here. A little later this year, they decided to hold it in May, and we're here, and we're doing our remote live show. As you know, last week in Texas, we did some things there, and now we're here, and we're going to talk to three different guests today. And the first one is somebody I'm so excited to introduce you. Somebody that not only is a professional colleague, but a personal friend. Staci and I go back 12 years to that rooftop in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, where we first met. I was involved heavily with the North Dakota Sheriffs and Deputies Association, and Staci's the executive director of the South Dakota Sheriff's Association. And I think we are living proof that collaboration works. We met. We started talking about a lot of the different things that we do in North Dakota, the things they were doing in South Dakota, and we combined our resources. And out of that, we created the Dakota Territory Sheriff's Association with support from the sheriffs of both states. And every other year, we come together and we train, and I think we're living proof that collaboration works. So
absolutely.
I'm really excited to have you here today, Staci.
Glad to be here. Thank you, guys.
So how is the conference going for you? We've been here. We had a chance to talk the last couple of days. Staci was visiting with some of our team as we have a lot going on here, and was talking about JailTalk and all that. And we're going to get to that here in a little bit. But how's the conference going?
Oh my gosh, it's been wonderful. It's really good getting together. Training is obviously the reason that we come here, but it's the networking we have with the other sheriffs and jail administrators that are here that really sends it over the top.
Are you saying sheriffs and jail administrators like to talk? Yeah, we kind of do. And then you get all of us in a room, a couple hundred are together. It's a loud place.
Well, and you learn from one another.
You do. I think that networking, it's funny because you listen to people talk and hey, I'm going to a conference. I'm going to Western states this year. I'm going to national sheriffs. Or I'm going to my state association. And and what comes out of that? Well, we network. Oh, you network.
Right.
You network. And certainly there's social time and there's things that happen where you get to let your hair down. You're out of jurisdiction. And you get a chance to see people you haven't seen for a long time because let's face it, in the sheriff's world, they're busy. And they have a lot going on, and they get a chance to come here, talk to their peers, talk to others, and that networking thing is such an important part. And we got a couple other guests that we're going to have on here shortly, and we'll talk about that and the network with we're going to have Fred Lamphere, our current Western States president, and we're also going to have Kieran Donahoe from Canyon County, Idaho, who started a really cool program, and we all learn from each other here. And that was my next question: is what have you taken most out of the show this year? Compared to years past, or has it just reinforced a lot of what you think?
I would say it's probably a combination of both, but the border crisis, our fellow sheriffs and the issue that's creating for them down there, and how that translates into impacting us up here.
I don't think people realize, having been a sheriff and having been involved at the national level with NSA and then at our state levels with both North Dakota and our joint effort with Dakota Territories, people don't realize when you listen, you watch, whatever media outlet you watch nationally, and you listen to all the talk about the border crisis and what's happening there is a massive impact to sheriffs, and it is the buzz around here about what's happening.
Well, it's something I knew coming into this morning when they said we were going to talk about that. The sheriffs from the border said, they come in here, but they don't stay here. And I knew that. And they're like, we're just a pass-through. And if you don't believe they're coming or it's coming to your area, it is. And when I say that, primarily the drugs. I mean, what I learned today is fentanyl is going to surpass meth for what's being coming in. And so that was a takeaway.
Look how meth devastated this country for so many years. And now you're saying, and what we're hearing is fentanyl is going to surpass that. That's just scary everybody out there.
Right.
I don't care, law enforcement officers, leaders, our civilian leaders, if we have viewers out there that are citizens, that should concern you, and that should we as a nation need to wake up to. It's not about politics and the political agenda of immigration. It's what's it doing to our country, and I think people really need to sit up and listen.
It's not political. It is public safety.
Absolutely.
And what do we need to do to make and keep our communities safe?
And I wish that it would quit being made political, because what's happening is it's taking and detracting away from the impact to American citizens and what's happening within our country. And we all need to step up. We all need to start paying attention. And I also took that out of this. I think, talking to it's for me, it's so fun to come back to Western, because it's like old home week. It's like reunion week for me. And to talk to my fellow sheriffs. And, there's a number of us that are retired running around here that you still care so much. And then talking to what they're dealing with. And this is real. This is really something. So that it's neat to get your take on that. As an executive director, you represent all your counties in South Dakota and all your sheriffs. And you have many of them here. Fred, we're going to interview Fred, South Dakota Sheriff, is the current president of Western States and is going to be on with us today. And I think it's important we all tune into what Staci just said. It's important, and executive directors across the country, I'm sure, are taking the same thing as you.
I hope so.
Lauren?
Well, switching gears a little bit, I know you've become a pretty big fan of JailTalk, which we really appreciate and love, and what we're trying to do with this whole thing. Can you tell our listeners why you feel like podcasts like JailTalk are so important?
Absolutely. So when you guys created JailTalk, I tuned in, and I like to always check things out for myself first before I pass it on, because our members tend to, if Staci says it, maybe it is important. And
I used to think that when you spoke. I listened.
The topics that you guys covered, not everybody. I just came up from a training where they were talking about when budgets are tight, when staffing is tight, what's the first thing to go? Training. And your podcasts are short enough but informational enough that they can be that training, little 15-minute nugget of training, 30-minute nugget for somebody who can't get away. And some of the experts you guys have brought in are phenomenal. And I'm starting to hear back from many of ours how much they enjoy it. So.
Well, we've been hearing that as well, and we say this a lot during the episodes, but if you're a first-time listener just starting to tune in, JailTalk was born as a kind of a brainstorm of our owner, Todd Westby, and it was his way. We build our whole company, Turnkey Corrections, on the sheriff's world and the services we provide, and the one thing that he just wanted to do was give back to the sheriff's community, and he knew with my exposure and my background that I would have that opportunity to reach out to sheriffs and the people of that caliber across the country, and that's exactly what we're doing. And the one thing that we just kind of committed to each other to was we're going to talk about the hot issues. We're going to bring in the training and the pertinent things that will benefit a sheriff or jail administrator, their staff, and we're never going to sell a turnkey product, because that's not what this show's about. It's obvious who we work for, but this is Todd's way of giving back to the sheriff's world that has given him and us so much. And it was really neat as we were talking with you yesterday. We've been friends a long time, but I also know you. You're very direct, and if you didn't like it, I would know that too. And she's not shy, and I think that's why I've had so much respect. And it was interesting because it was our CEO Dewey who came up and said, "Hey, I was just talking to Staci from South Dakota, and I'd like you to bring her on JailTalk. She's really a fan of the show." And I was like, "That's awesome." So it wasn't even me that looped you into this; it was Lauren and Dewey. And it's just, I think, refreshing for us. You know me and my passion for the sheriff's world, and I'm not going to deliver them garbage. I am not going to waste their time. I know what it's like to walk in their shoes. And Todd has just kind of given us the marching orders, get it done, and get it done right for them. Lauren and I have so much fun doing this, but our goal, our mission is to make a difference. When you walk around here and you see what they're all dealing with, what they're going through, we're not going to be something that wastes their time. We're going to be something that they tune in, tell their staff, watch this. Whether it's Dr. Miller talking about the psychological issues and the impacts on your officers, whether it's, Dr. Silva, who was talking about ways to battle COVID and ways to keep your people healthy and inmates healthy in jail, or it's Dave Mahoney, the former national president, talking about the pertinent issues. That's who we're going to bring. And, to have you've been in the executive director world a long time. There's not a sheriff's member that's been out there and been involved that doesn't know Staci Ackerman. So to have you say that, I think means a lot to us. And
I'll be a little honest, it was self-serving, because I do like what you guys are doing with JailTalk. I think it benefits not just South Dakota, but everybody nationwide who's listening. So I found Dewey and I told him how much I appreciated what you guys are doing, because I think it's important for your leadership to know when things are going well and then when they're not. And like you said, I'd be honest. And
you would. You would. I can vouch for that. Well, on behalf of us, thank you. And I'll give you this promise. We're going to keep doing this, and we're going to deliver quality stuff that when you tune in, you go, that was a great 20 minutes of my time, great 30 minutes of my time. And I think you motivate us to make sure we go out and do it, but most importantly, that we're going to do it.
Well, thank you, guys.
So with that, I think I also have a question for you as far as an executive director. And the things that you see happening out there, what is your message to law enforcement in these trying times?
Oh gosh, you make me cry.
Yeah. Well, I'll say this: people need to realize about Staci. Usually, we do a lot of bios, but we're remote and we're doing this. So Staci's been executive director for many, many years. What years did you start?
Started 2007.
2007. Prior to that, she was a deputy with the Minnehaha County Sheriff's Office in Sioux Falls for many, many years, and then you did some part-time stuff and filled in when you took the executive director job. So she knows cop talk, and she knows how to walk the walk because she wore the uniform for many, many years.
My father was with the sheriff's office, so
your son is now in law enforcement.
He's
in corrections.
Yes.
So you kind of been there, done that,
yeah.
And I think it's important for me. I've known you a long time, and I know how passionate you are and how much you love this. So I just wanted to give you a forum, Lauren, and I talked about it. It's like what message would you like to give your fellow?
I'm going to apologize because I know I'm going to tear up, and everybody from South Dakota is not going to be surprised at this, but just thank you. And, I hear sometimes people say, I wouldn't want anybody to go into law enforcement today with the climate the way it is. And I'm like, no, we need you. We need good people. And if you think about it, if the good people aren't willing to stand up and fill those roles, do you want that mediocre, that marginal person applying for those positions in our agencies? I don't. And if any one of my children wanted to be, my oldest is in corrections. I have another son who is, somewhat interested in law enforcement yet, and I would be very proud. It's a difficult job, but that's where we come in as far as our associations, and what you guys are doing is supporting people. So please, I just stay in it, continue with it, because we need the good people out there.
Absolutely. I'm proud to say I have a great niece that just graduated the Law Enforcement Academy in Minnesota last week, and I was just told by one of my nephews who graduates high school this weekend, we're having his graduation party this weekend, he is going to go to Sioux Falls to law enforcement school and wants to be a law enforcement officer. So they're out there, and first of all, don't apologize for getting emotional. Any of us that know you know how passionate you are about this profession. You give it your all, and we got to be strong. It's tough times, but if we give up and we lose faith, then who's going to have it?
Right.
And so we're going to keep at it. And Stace, it means a lot to me. You came on today. It's for so many reasons, and I just want to thank you for your time, your honesty, and we know you're always going to give us the direct feedback that we need to hear, whether we want to hear it or not. We're going to hear it, and we appreciate that, and so thank you.
Well, I prefer to be that person that flies under the radar behind the scenes, but thank you. When you told me what your objective was, I wanted to.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you guys. Thank you.
All right, well, our next guest is going to be here shortly, and we'll have some more jail talk coming at you very soon. Well, hello, everyone. We're back on Jail Talk, and our next guest has arrived. He's a busy man. He's got a lot happening around here right now. He's kind of a big deal, even though he's pretty modest about things. I am so excited to introduce our next guest. He's a sheriff that I have known for many years, and a man that I've had a lot of respect for my years as sheriff. We worked together on a number of things. Back when, we were talking with Staci earlier about how Dakota Territories was born, and you and I had a lot of collaboration on that, a lot of discussions on that, and the executive director world, I picked your brain a lot when we were looking at filling our North Dakota position. So it's just we've had a chance to work together a lot, and you're kind of a big deal. You are the current president of the Western States Sheriff's Association, and I've watched you tearing around here the last couple of days. You got a few things on your plate. Fred is the sheriff in Butte County, South Dakota, which is in northwestern South Dakota. So it is truly a privilege for me to welcome not only a good friend, but an amazing sheriff, Sheriff Fred Lamphere, Butte County, South Dakota. Mr. President, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well. Thank you, and thank you for your kind words. It's been an honor to serve as the president of Western States. It's an exciting time right now.
It really is. Well, and that actually leads me kind of into my first question with you is now you're coming to your 1-year term. I mean, you've been a sheriff a long time, so you've been in this game a long time. You came up through the chairs here at Western State, so you're pretty in tune with everything that's happening. You're a very active sheriff in your home state of South Dakota. As you've had a chance now to reflect on your past year, on top of having COVID thrown at you in the middle of everything, what would you say are the hottest issues you've had to deal with, or the hottest issues on your agenda as president of WSSA?
You know, I'm going to say early on with the COVID that hit all of us, and just how everyone reacted or didn't react to the crisis that occurred, it was a challenge. A lot of things were planned. A lot of things got canceled through the year. I'd kind of prepared my staff, for sure the commissioners in my county I was going to be gone a lot. Ironically, COVID hit. We kind of slowed up on things, but I can say that we, as an association, we met monthly, sometimes 2 or 3 times a month through Zoom meetings, which, as you can imagine, most sheriffs don't like, but we conference calls and that. Things started opening up in the fall, and of course, as we went through the transition of a new president, things have really changed, and our focus in the last few months have been primarily on the border and the border crisis, and all that's really doing to the whole United States of America. It isn't just what's happening on the border that is affecting our fellow sheriffs down there, but it's what's coming into the United States in the numbers that we've never seen before. It's been a huge issue, and we've really put a lot of effort as Western States to be down there and support those fellow sheriffs.
You know, it was interesting because Staci Ackerman, who happens to be your executive director from your state, ironically, we have 2 South Dakotans on the show, but she talked about, being in the audience and listening to some of the speakers and the impact that she's seen and how much of an impact it had on her, to realize that the focus is all on the border. I think you alluded to it, and she mentioned it, is that it's a pass-through. Once they're in, they're not staying in that area. They're filtering out through the entire United States. And here we are in the middle of a pandemic. Here we are in the middle of a drug crisis. And, one of the things she had brought up was that fentanyl is going to surpass meth. And as sheriffs during the height of meth, what a nightmare that was. I can't fathom that fentanyl is now going to pass that. So I knew, I remember we had the South Dakota show. I mean, your commitment to the Western Sheriffs is completely admirable, because I know you had to miss your own state Sheriff's Association show because your duties as president called you down to the border.
Yes. Yeah.
And that support that you have to give them.
That was a very enlightening time. On that trip, I went to Yuma. We had met a couple of weeks prior to that in El Paso with Secretary Mayorkas, and with a lot of voices of sheriffs that are living it every day, and the consequences of what's going on with how the border is being patrolled, monitored, ran, and we still haven't gotten a toehold on what they're going to do to help those sheriffs. They're inundated with the mass of people, the mass of drugs. They figured out that we as Americans are responsible, and when we see people in crisis, we respond to that. And what that does is consume their efforts to protect and help these people in crisis, even if they aren't Americans. They can't leave someone dying in the desert. So that opens the door for more people to come through for more illegal activity. And, I mean, the main message is these people are coming here illegally. They are not going to follow our rules. And it really is a full American crisis that's going on right now, because these people are not going to follow the rule of law. They're not going to follow citizenship, because they're cutting corners to get here.
Well, I have no doubt that you're one of the right men to carry that message, and I don't think you're done carrying that message even when you're done being president. I know you have 2 years left still on the board, and I know we're going to hear a lot more from you. As I said, I've known you a long time, and your passion and commitment to the American Sheriffs is admirable, and I'm really glad you're in that seat. Lauren?
Well, switching gears a little bit, my job is social media and content specialist. So my question to you is, do you think the law enforcement world is doing enough in the media to counter all of those narratives out there that are really anti-law enforcement?
Personally, I do not. I know that we have tools that we can use. Most of us in law enforcement are, for a better word, pretty modest. we're elected to do a job. We're appointed to do a job. We hire the right people to carry the message that we all have. We don't like to get down in the mud. We try to take the high road. And the people that challenge us, especially in the office of sheriff, because it's elected office, it's politics, for a better word. But we don't fight back hard enough. And I think we kind of just expect that the people have a level of respect for us. But I can say in the past 2 or 3 years, we're really losing that battle. I think there's a lot of good, honorable people that would love this profession and get from it what I've gotten from it, what Paul's gotten from it. But it's hard to recruit young people now. There's every sheriff that I've talked to at this conference and throughout the last year, it has been the biggest struggle they have is recruiting people to come into this honorable job.
Do you have any advice for those sheriffs and as far as recruiting, what they can do?
I think we all have to keep our own plates clean. We all have to do the right thing. And we hear so vividly and loud when we don't do the right thing. When someone in this field of line of work does something wrong or at least challengeable by the public's perception, the media release the body cameras right away. There's always two sides. They edit things. They really paint it towards a bad picture of law enforcement. I could say this has been an honorable career, and the people I've known they're the top 5% of people that's going to step in and do the right thing all the time. And the few that aren't, I don't know. They shouldn't be. We shouldn't be judged by a few people. Every profession has a few people.
Mm-hmm. And it does seem to be that narrative right now. And again, it's so politicized, and it's really sad to see how many, I think, in the media have chosen to be advocates rather than be journalists and reporters. You look at the hundreds of thousands of police contacts across this country every day that are positive, where lives are saved, where people are protected and people are safe because of our intervention. You don't hear that. You hear the one incident somewhere where there was a mistake made. And I would love to see the media start remembering what you represent, which is journalism and not being an advocate. And I hope that narrative changes, because it's going to put our country, if you start having cops afraid to get out of squad cars, that's a scary day in America. And right now, that momentum and that narrative is out there. And I agree with you. Everything you said, I agree with you. And I will say with that's kind of my final words for you, Fred. As knowing you a long time, I have so much respect for you. And you've stepped up. You've represented the Dakotas, and now you're representing the entire western part of America and America's sheriffs. And on behalf of all of us that either walked in that path and those that are still in that path, thank you for what you've done.
Thank you.
Well, Sheriff, do you have any final words you want to share with listeners, or anything you want to say to law enforcement out there?
I think my message to law enforcement is that you're doing a great job. Keep doing what you do. Support the profession. Work on your part on recruiting young people. Work on setting the right examples. I think we as Americans have an honor, have a respect for law enforcement. I think way down deep we all do. Don't get swept into the mainstream media and their perception of what we do.
Great advice from a great sheriff. And I can't thank you enough, Fred, for taking time out of your day. I know how busy you've been around here. I've watched you for the last couple of days, and I know what your schedule's like, but you took time out to come out to talk to our JailTalk listeners. And as always, you're serving the office of sheriff, not only locally, but nationally. So with that, I want to personally thank you again, and we'll definitely be seeing you around the conference. So I'll have you listening out there. We'll have our next guest on shortly. You'll have more JailTalk coming at you shortly. Our last guest for the day is a man and a sheriff who needs no introduction in the sheriff world. He's definitely known as a man who gets it done, a man who's had an impact in our world, and a man that's still getting it done. And I don't think he's done getting it done for the sheriff's world. We would like to welcome to the show Sheriff Kieran Donahoe of the Canyon County, Idaho Sheriff's Office. Kieran, It is an absolute privilege to have you here today.
It's actually my privilege and my honor to be here. Thank you for having me.
Well, you have been a busy man. We just previously we had Sheriff Fred Lamphere, our current Western States president. We had Staci Ackerman, an executive director that needs no introduction in the Western world. She's very well known. And it kind of really gave us their perspectives. And you and I have known each other many years.
Yes.
And we've had a lot of chats when I was an active sheriff and you were making an impact and just somebody I grew to respect so much. And we're going to talk a lot about what you've been doing and all that. And I've been seeing you around the show here. It's the first time we've ever done a mobile jail talk where we've got to sit down and talk to some numerous guests and just kind of see what's happening while you're there and while you're in it. And I've been watching you. You're a hard guy to track down because you have got a lot of people who want your time. And Lauren and I can't thank you enough that you're giving us some of your time today. So how's the conference been for you?
It's really good. This is, thankfully we're all out, right? We all got to come back and enjoy ourselves, not being on a Zoom call. I'm tired of Zoom and WebEx.
And I'm tired of looking. We get a chance to see those smiles again.
Something there. I want to read their eyes and their mouth, right?
Exactly.
It's been good. Today, as you saw down there, was one of the best conversations we've had probably in the last few years. We had so many people here, the second chiefs, but the chief, from Customs Border Patrol, really engaged, really talking to the sheriffs. Of course, our border sheriffs too, but really engaging the entire membership, and that's what we need. We need that collaboration. We need those efforts. And so I thought, and I think that the show's been going really well, and I think people are excited to be here. They are engaging, obviously the sponsors, the vendors like yourself.
Absolutely.
It's a chance for people to get back together, and we need that, and we need that as an association. And the Office of Sheriff.
It's really neat, and I'm sure some will say, "Well, COVID, everybody's just anxious to get out." But I think I don't think it's that. I think yes, we're all excited to get out. But I came here many years as a sheriff now, and I've been coming here every year since I've been with Turnkey. And to see the attendance, to see the numbers here is, I think we are all that are engaged and concerned about our communities and what's happening in this country. This is our chance to come together and share together and learn together. And you guys have had a lot. And I tell you, both when Staci was on, when Fred was on, and you and I, when we were talking off air before the show began, we're talking about some of the impacts. And it was, it's interesting that a lot of your message, I think what you're going to talk about right now was the same as theirs. And the reason for that is, what's happening south is so concerning. And to talk to you and see how passionate you get about this, and you're an Idaho sheriff, you're not a southern border sheriff. Yeah. Some people would be saying, well, why does what up in Idaho, why would you be concerned about down there? Well, first of all, you're American. Yeah. But two, tell our listeners and tell people, why is an Idaho sheriff so concerned about the southern border?
Well, obviously it's not my first trip into those parts, but like I spoke about today, and we've been speaking about it for years. National security is border security. Border security is national security. Whatever happens on that border is happening in my community. It's happening in your community, Lauren. And we've proven that. We've filmed down there before. We've done the Corridor series with NBC, and we brought from the border, from the ranchers, from the sheriffs down there. We've shown the dope come across, the cartel involvement, and we've tracked it 1,200 miles north, and we've said now it's in our schools, and now we're dealing with it here. The criminality. And criminality doesn't stop at the border. That criminality goes clear to New York City, to Washington, D.C., to all parts in between. And that's why it's important that we're here, that those sheriffs are taking the time to share with us what they're going through. But quite frankly, I am very involved, as you know, on sheriff border issues because I am a voice for our sheriffs on the border. I can get down there, bring their message back, and show the American people, this is affecting you and your children. This is killing your people in the streets. This is filling up your jails. Clogging your court system, but most of all, it's killing your communities. Financially, economically, of course, but really socioeconomically. And these are your children. These are your brothers, your sisters, your wives, your husbands. They're dying in the streets. They're overdosing. Just look at what the damage has done. That damage isn't just happening. The damage is brought to us by our friends in Mexico, which are not. I'm being facetious. The cartels are extremely intricate. They're extremely well-versed. They're business-oriented people, and they figured it out, how to destroy this country.
And it's working.
And their allies in China, their allies in Southeast Asia have jumped on that bandwagon, have for years, but they're outpacing them. They're outpacing everybody. And so it's incredibly important that we are talking about this today, that Fred talked about it, that we met with these guys, and we can't underscore it enough that national security is border security. And when we're talking about the southern border, of course, that's where the heat is right now. But I can tell you, the northern border, as you know very well, they're circumventing, coming through Canada, in the United States, bringing those loads, bringing the fentanyl, bringing the methamphetamine. Guns are going back, ammunition's going back to the border. They have to have it to control their territories. We have got to come together as a nation, and a nation of sheriffs, and address this issue together, because we are being singled out, and we'll be destroyed because of it.
Absolutely.
Unless we band together and really take, it's not, when we say it's not our problem, it's those border sheriffs, it's their problems are our problems. And by God, they're our colleagues, and they're our friends, and they are in the same mission, and they're standing the same wall we're standing, and we've got to keep our watch.
Absolutely. I had the privilege to chair the Northern Border Task Force Committee, which was part of the Border Securities Committee during my tenure as sheriff. And then when I retired, I since handed that off. And to listen, we all have the same issues. Yeah. I was a North Dakota sheriff. You're an Idaho sheriff. You hear Fred's a South Dakota sheriff. You have the border sheriffs, all, Mark Daniels, very, very, very vocal. Leon Wilmot, very, very vocal. And we are all the same blood. We're all the same brethren. And we are all proud Americans who want to protect our country. Why is nobody listening?
Well, obviously, we have the mainstream media and that rhetoric and leaving out the real substance of what's going on. And if you put it into the shadows, then people aren't aware of it.
Right.
But it really is our job, not just as sheriffs, as Americans, we need to bring it forward, because it can and it will destroy us. And when we look at our good friends, Mark Daniels and Leon Wilmot and so many others, Fred and all those guys that are trying to bring the troops to them, look, they get past those guys, we're all that's left.
Absolutely.
Right? Across this nation, we are the last hope. And I always do it this way when I'm speaking around the nation, and I'm talking about the Mexican cartels and their patronage of Santa Muerte and the worshiping of that drug culture, right? We're the first and last line of defense. We depend on our military to protect us abroad, to protect our domestic interests.
Right.
But the sheriffs are the same way. We are the first and the last line of defense. And if the border sheriffs are overrun, which they are overrun, and Customs and Border Patrol is overrun, then we must send reinforcements. We must shore up those holes in our program to where we hold the line. This is for real. This is for all the marbles. This is for life of the American people. And if we don't, we will be. I prophesize this all the time. China's smart as hell, right? China's like, we're in this for 1,000 years. We're not in it for 2 years. We're in it for a 1,000-year war. Let them kill themselves. Let them get strung out on dope. Let their
destroy themselves from within.
Fail.
Yep.
Then we'll walk in. There's so many aspects of it, and that might be a little bit too global for some people, but the fact is it's real. It's real to us who are on the front lines fighting it. And yes, we have to take care of our own sheriff's offices, we have to take care of our own jurisdictions, but we must, sheriffs in this country have to be engaged to get down to that border, to get up to the northern border, talk to our people on the other side of the border, and do what we can to force our administration, truly our administration, and they're our president, they're our administration. I respect the office of president, but we have to engage. We have to get some help, because I'm telling you, these men and women are overwhelmed. The citizens of our country, as you heard today, the people that are pushing the ranchers out, the people who are afraid to go anywhere.
Right.
That's American soil.
Absolutely.
That's American soil.
And there's something so wrong.
That's inherently wrong.
Exactly.
We have given too much bloodshed, lives of men and women of our armed forces and our law enforcement officers, to give up that easily. We can't do it, and I won't do it.
I know you.
I will fight to the last breath. You know me. I can't back up very easy.
Well, I tell you what, Sheriff, I know we could probably, you and I especially, can Lawrence and be like, oh my God, here they go. It's two sheriffs with a microphone. Watch out.
I'll back down.
We could go for hours. What I'd like to do is I'd like to offer, I would love to have you, when we're not remote, come to Wisconsin, come to our studio, and let's sit down and talk in depth about this for a full show and maybe part one, part two. Would you be willing to do that in the future?
More than willing. I think that's, obviously, time is valuable to everyone, but this is what we should be doing.
Absolutely.
That's when I'm at the pulpit. That's why I am a sheriff. That we talk about these issues. I'd be glad to come. Thank you.
We would love that. As you know, our owner Todd is about giving back to the sheriff's world, and I know he'd be so excited to know that you're coming up and come back and talk to our listeners out there about what's going on. Lauren, I know you've had something you've been really curious to ask him about.
Yeah, so I hear you started this amazing program. That's really been gaining a lot of momentum. So I was hoping you could tell our listeners a little bit about that and some goals that you've had with that.
Well, thank you, Lauren. It's the Man Up Crusade. It's a nonprofit organization, 501c3, that my wife Jeannie and I started 9 years ago. And we started it because I came to her one day and said, God is telling me to do something about domestic violence in our country. Domestic violence is an epidemic, just like drugs are in our country. We don't talk about it. It's taboo. It's somebody else's problem, but it's really society's problem. And I was compelled, because of all my years, I didn't look like this when I was undercover, obviously, but I spent 7 years nearly undercover, and especially with the FBI task force. And so all I ever saw was domestic violence in all these houses I went to. And so I went to Jeannie, I said, we got to do something. And so we started the K. Donahoe Foundation and do business as the Man Up Crusade. And what we did was we said, who do we align ourselves with? And it was cowboy ideology, the American West, the American cowboy, who will go forward without anyone watching, and he'll do what he says he's going to do, or she. And so we aligned ourselves with professional rodeo. We both come from the rodeo world, Jeannie and I. And so we go out into the communities, like here in Reno. We're here next month. For many years, we've been here with the Reno Rodeo, one of the top in the world. And we partner with them. And so what we say is, you bring us in, there's no cost. We're a nonprofit as well, but we're going to come to your community. We're going to raise awareness, and they're going to designate a night, Purple Night, just like Pink Night, just like Military Night. And we're going to designate so people come in purple to support victims and survivors of domestic violence. And we're going to talk about the issue, and the announcers are going to talk about it, and the cowboys and cowgirls are going to lead the charge, and the fans come in purple, and we raise money at that event. And all the money we raise at that event, the Man Up Crusade takes that money, and we turn around and write a check for 100% plus of those funds to the charity in that community, a domestic violence shelter, a women and children shelter, and we give the money back. So we come to town, we raise awareness, we talk about the issue, we raise money, we give it back to the community plus more, and we're off to the next rodeo.
That's awesome. Well, and I know Lauren's going to be so proud of me right now because it's not even scripted, and I'm going to ask you. She's our social media content specialist, and if people want to learn more, because we could go on a long time here, and we will when we get you to the studio, if they want to learn more about the Man Up Crusade, how do they find you?
Simply go to our website, Man Up Crusade. It's easy, right? At manupcrusade.com, and you can go there and you can see who the sponsors, our affiliations are, and of course what we do for society and our databases, and we connect both victims and offenders, how they can find help. But the main thing that we're after, Lauren, really is we want to change the next generation of children. We know that domestic violence is environmental, it's cultural, across all societies, and I believe we can change the world, right? That's my goal. I want to change the world. That's what I want to do. Jeannie's like, that's a little high. I said, yeah, but that's what we're going to do. But go to our website, look at it, give us a call. Like I say,
can people donate at the website?
Absolutely, they can donate. They can help us. We raise money. We give all the money away, so we do depend on financial donations by corporations or by individuals. That's our operating capital. Because every community we go to, we take nothing from that community. We take nothing. We raise money in that community, we give it back to that community, and we save lives. And we change lives by helping people get out from underneath this mantra that they have to stay in a relationship, man or woman. Mm-hmm. One in 4 women are victims of domestic violence in their lifetime. 1 in 7 men are victims of domestic violence in their lifetime. CDC numbers, look it up. The stats are there to prove it. Law enforcement, it's 50% of what we do every day is domestic violence calls of service.
Absolutely.
And last week, 4 officers killed in line of duty across this nation answering domestic violence calls. So that's why it's important to do what we do. And I'm very committed. My wife Jeannie is very committed. And we love it. We love that we go out there and we can help save people's lives and change them, and especially the children.
Well, thank you. Thank you for doing that work. It probably isn't always easy work, I can imagine. Thank you for coming on the podcast. Paul and I both really appreciate you being here. Obviously, things have been tough for law enforcement, especially in this last year. What would be your final message to the law enforcement officers?
We have to hold the line. It is hard, and we're losing people from our profession. It's hard to recruit from our profession, but we got to stay the course. We have to hold the line. Law enforcement must band together, city police officers with sheriff, county officers, with prosecuting attorneys, and we have to band together. We have to be that band of brothers. Right now, maybe more important than any other time in our history, we are under siege by those elements and that rhetoric that is driving people away, and this rhetoric out there that we're not important, that we don't belong. We're certainly there's going to be people that are problems. We're going to get them out of our industry, but right now, hold the line. The nation and really the world is watching, and they're depending on us. We have to stay the course, and we've got to stand our watch. We can't give up.
Well, that is a great message, and to all our listeners out there, I used to always tell my officers when you respond to a call and why we need to stay calm and because if we lose control, then who has control? Well, same thing right now. If he gets through the thin blue line, who's there? There's nobody left, and stand strong. Your message is solid, Sheriff. Your message is strong as it always is. We were so excited when you took time out of your busy day to come see us. We're going to talk again in the future. I can tell you have somebody who's walked that walk with you as a sheriff, who has worn that purple shirt.
Yes,
I'm very proud of that purple shirt and what you're doing with it. No, we got your back, and we're going to be here for you. Just keep doing what you're doing, brother.
Likewise, appreciate you having me. Really do, both of you.
All right. Well, this is the part where Lauren does her spiel. I know you're all getting used to this, and really would like for you to like and subscribe. So, Lauren, do your thing.
Yes, if you have comments or questions, you can email us at jailtalkpodcast@gmail.com. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube channel at JailTalk Podcast.
Well, I think this is a wrap from Reno. We had a great time here. We still got a little time here to accomplish some things and to meet with some people. We're really excited about our first remote jail talk here, where we had a number of guests and a chance to do this. And we're going to keep trying some new things. If you got any ideas for us, please get them to us. Lauren looks at our emails every day, and we are going to get your ideas on the show. So take some time, like us, subscribe, and give us your ideas. And we're going to get quality men and quality women on the show. These are the kind of guys that we want you to hear from, and we're going to keep bringing them to you. So with that, from Reno, we're going to be signing off. I'm Paul Laney.
And I'm Lauren Matthews.
This is Jail Talk. We'll see you soon.